Hello everyone, and welcome back to another lesson with me, your teacher Ken. Today we start a new chapter, chapter 10, Our Planets, part 1 and 2, page 198 to 209. But first, we are going to do homework review as per the usual. So your homework was to plan a trip, write your own itinerary and schedule. So when you are planning a trip, you generally have what time that you leave, what time that you have your flight, and then what you plan to do when you arrive. Because especially if you're arriving in a country that you don't know anything about and you do not have a tour guide, you might need to do some pre-planning, as it also is required for certain countries when you go to travel there, that you have a schedule of stay, so what you plan to do. So for me, I'll give you an example of a schedule. So when I went to Japan last year, I wrote down a schedule for the embassy so that I can get my visa back. And what my schedule was I planned to visit quite a few places in Okinawa, Japan. So I had things like the Churami Aquarium, which is the second biggest aquarium in the world, and I had the date and the general time. You don't need to be really super specific because things happen, okay? So things can be interchangeable. Where maybe there's a specific restaurant in a different district that you plan to go to, or like me, I also went on a military base so that I could go and eat there. But then you have to get special clearance for that, and you have to also list that as well because it's very important, or else they can't just let civilians on the base. So it's all about what specifics you plan to do, but don't be too specific because, again, things can change. Itinerary and schedule go hand in hand. What time you plan to leave, when your flight is, where you're going to go, food you're going to eat, places you're going to visit, and things like that. So that's all for our homework review, and we are going to go and move on into the vocabulary next. Now, on to our vocabulary. So our vocabulary covers Chapter 10, Our Planet, Parts 1 and 2, pages 198 to pages 209. So the first word is campus. Campus, the grounds of a college or university. Parts of speech, a noun. So currently we're at Belty. So Belty is considered where the surroundings of Belty. So where the land is located, where Belty is located, this is considered the grounds. So if I say the grounds of a college or university, being it the campus, I mean it's all of the subsidiaries, everything that is owned by the said university. So if you have like a sports or a student union or something like that, and it's for the university, it's typically on university or campus grounds. Number 2, environment. This is a noun, the surroundings in which one lives. So this could be you personally, or it could be animals, for instance. So my environment is Cambodia, and the general environment of myself is where I live. So the environment that let's say a monkey lives in versus a hippopotamus is considerably different. Yes, we all live on the same planet, but in the specifics of the environment in and of itself, it's different. Exhibit. Noun, to publicly display something. So this could be given your behavior. You can exhibit a certain behavior like, oh, I can exhibit anger or exhibit sadness. As well as think about like art galleries. So at art galleries quite often, they have tons of different kinds of art. You might even see it when you go to the museum, let's say in Simmered. You go to a museum, they have lots of exhibits, lots of displays. They're displaying specific art, maybe from Cambodia's past or now from its present or potential future. But yes, to publicly display something, just show something off kind of. Number 4, pollution, the presence or introduction of something harmful to the environment. So let's say, for instance, factories. There are tons of factories producing various different things, and some may feel like they need to be produced and not needed to be produced. But when you emit fumes into the air, it destroys the ozone layer. So it kind of breaks that down, and it makes it hotter and more harmful to us. The ozone layer has been repairing because, in light of the coronavirus, has been repairing itself. But in this case, the presence or introduction of something harmful to the environment. So it affects your living space, your living area. And this generally calls for like a specific like substance or chemical. Student union. This is a noun. An organization for student affairs. So this like certain university or schools have student unions. And student unions, like I said, an organization for student affairs where you can go to kind of get everything situated in relation to you. So it could have involvement with, let's say, your class schedule, or this is more prevalent in a university, not so much in a high school or elementary school or something like that. But this is more, like I said, more prevalent in the university, and it assists you in these affairs. Normally, at a lower level, before you get to university, most of this stuff is already done for you, but you're expected to do a lot of this stuff yourself. So one place where you can find all of this information at is at student union. To give a speech. To speak out with intention to a group of people. Now, I'll explain this a little bit more in detail, what I mean by like giving a speech. So I have intention behind my words in terms of what I speak. I have maybe a specific group of people that I am talking to. Maybe I'm trying to inspire or incite something useful. This would be giving a speech. I don't know if you know Martin Luther King Jr. He a famous political orator in the United States, and he gave speeches quite a lot. 7, plant. This is a verb. You might be confusing yourself with plant as in like a flower or a vegetable or something like that, but this is different. This is a verb. There's 2, plant for verb and plant for noun. Place a seed or bulb, etc., into the ground so it can grow. So the action of putting something in the ground with the purposes of it growing. Pollute. Now, pollute and pollution are a bit different because pollution is a noun and pollute is a verb. Pollute, to contaminate with a harmful substance. So you can see the relation in between pollute and pollution. Something harmful to the environment, so the presence of it, and this is to deliberately do something. Maybe not deliberately, but the action of contaminating something. Support. This is a verb. Support means to give assistance to help, basically. Relatively simple. I support a lot of my friends when they give me business ideas or different ventures that they want to do, and I say, that's a great idea, you should definitely pursue it. Number 10, this is an expression. Expressions are very important. A lot going on. Many different things happening at once or near the same time. So you can say, I have a lot going on, meaning that you have more than one thing, you have multiple things that isn't necessarily normal. Like, oh, go to school and go to work. These are like relatively normal. But then outside of that, you have things that happen at work and things that happen at school that kind of branch off into its own little division in and of itself. So, in and of itself. So, yeah, just lots of things happening at the same time. That is all for our vocabulary, and we are going to move into our lesson next. To our actual lesson itself. So, as usual, we take a look at our textbook activities. So we have quite a few for you here. Most of them are the same as usual, listening for main ideas and listening for specific information. which we won't go over. I included a vocabulary review for you to do within this lesson because this is a new lesson and I want you to retain the knowledge a little bit more. But apart from that, we have a few different focuses here. So the first one is activity 8, listening for stressed words. This is on page 204. Now, usually we do this, but in this instance, I want to put a little bit more of a focus on words that you don't necessarily use all the time, so you can be more familiar. Even when I'm talking, can you pinpoint all of the points and where I stress the words? If you can do so, extra credit for you. Next, the one that I think is the most important, or that you might have the most trouble with, is emphasis and meaning. So this emphasis and meaning on page 205. Now, what do I mean by emphasis? And what I mean by meaning? Well, meaning, purpose, definition, what this means. And emphasis referring to the action that you put behind your speech. So to emphasize something. So if you take a look here on page, what I said, 205. So 205 on your focus section right here. You're going to listen to a specific given activity. Emphasis and meaning. The same sentence can have different meanings if different words are emphasized or stressed. For example, listening to the following conversations. I'll read for you conversation number 1. So conversation number 1. Alicia, at the student union, there will be exhibits on pollution. Students will also plant some trees around the college campus. Lee, so what are you going to do on Earth Day? Alicia, I'm going to give a speech. What's the purpose? What is the meaning? Well, Lee is asking about Alicia's plans compared to what other people do on the Earth Day, as based upon the emphasis in terms of when I speak, which is where, stresses come from. So the meaning of a sentence can completely change depending upon where you put the stress at. So I say, I gave you this example a few times before, but I'll give it to you again so you have something to relate to this topic. Now, I will walk to the store. There's no general emphasis. You can't really tell where it's at. But if I say, I will walk to the store, I put the emphasis or put the stress on I, meaning the subject pronoun. So the subject could change. Not him, not her, I, me. So the subject is there. I will. When I say like this, I will walk to the store, I'm putting emphasis on the will. Normally you wouldn't put it there, and this might be a little bit confusing for non-native speakers, but when I put the emphasis on will is a part of future tense. Okay, so it's a plan for something in the future. When I put emphasis on this, maybe somebody had initially thought that I was not going to do it, which is why I would put the emphasis on will itself. I will walk to the store. Maybe somebody thought I might be driving. Who knows? But I emphasize that I will be walking, not driving. You see the pattern here, where I change the stress in the word, changes the meaning entirely, or the purpose of it. So the first one focused on the subject pronoun. The second one focused on plans for the future. And the third one focused on the action itself. See? It's a variance, and it's very, very, very different. Now, we're talking in regards to our planet. As you can see with multiple vocabulary words, all of these are subsequent and in relation to our lesson. So if I'm referring to our planet, I want to state some things that we already know. So we take care of ourselves. We would like to take care of ourselves as human beings. What do? We normally get up, we brush our teeth, we take a shower, and various different things like that. Eat, give sustenance to ourselves. But what do we do for the earth? Quite often we just pollute it by very big chemical factories, destroying the ozone layer, dumping things in lakes, and keeping things, just not clean. So what's some of the ways that we can remedy this? Well, first one, recycling. That's also harmful to the environment. You know, plastic doesn't degrade for a long time, and it's a man-made substance, so it's not going to go so easily. If I throw oranges on the ground, that's a little bit different because it is could be considered compost or sustenance for the soil to grow. Lots of times people make compost out of garbage, like used food, leftover food, sorry. So that's one way that we can remedy this situation, is by actually just recycling itself. Now if we put more emphasis on reducing our carbon footprint, so meaning the amount of energy that we expend or use, this could also be helpful to the environment. We don't create so much heat, the polar ice caps do not melt, and we're not hopefully we don't see one of our countries sink into oblivion based on the rise of water. But now, as of recently, I would say it's on the uprise, and things are getting a bit better for the earth. So we have to take care of our earth because we only have one, and this is where we live. And what you do today affects what happens tomorrow. Now we're going to go over a little bit more in detail in our homework section, so I have something special. Now, on to our homework. Now, homework is, I would say, a relatively interesting topic itself, debate. Now, the what is a debate? Kind of like a discussion between two people or more, a given group, and so on. So the topic that I have chosen for this debate is everyone should limit their usage of electricity to 3 hours per day. Now, the reason why I chose this specific topic for you to do is that we need to think about our impact on the environment. And the purpose of this is not whether your opinion is right or wrong, but it's just what supporting facts and information or details that you use in order to persuade people to your point. So even like example, I have affirmative yes and negative no. So the entire class, morning class and afternoon class and evening class, will be split into a group of 2. So morning, one group and one group. So 2 groups per session. So that's 6 total groups that we're going to have. And you'll be placed by your teacher into that group. So your teacher decides, oh, you're going to be affirmative yes and you're going to be negative no. So your job on the affirmative yes is that you agree with this statement and you say that we should limit our usage of electricity to 3 hours per day. And then the negative would say, no, we should not. And then you give your reasonings why. And then in our Zoom session, what we will do is, this is where we'll have our debate in our group discussion. So please make sure that you are present, but everyone should limit their usage of electricity to 3 hours a day. We're thinking about our environment and potentially what we could change and what we could do for the environment and how we can help it. And is this right or wrong? Can we do this? Think about the different aspects. Think about society in and of itself today. Is this possible? Is this even obtainable for us to do? What happens if we only limit ourselves to 3 hours per day? Is it very, very useful for us? Or do you think it's just not necessary at all? I will explain, or your teacher will explain a little bit more in detail when your teacher assigns you this homework, but the homework will be done kind of in the Zoom session. So, all right, that was all for our homework, and if you have any questions, please contact me or your teacher. Thank you.